Rescue the Fosters is about changing the foster system. We want to ensure every child has a safe environment to grow and become healthy, successful adults.
Additionally, when I was in the foster care system, I had to defend for myself. Rescue the Foster is here to empower the youth aging out of the system and offer resources to ensure they are not dependent on the government.
What we observed was that children become institutionalized and end up in prison and providing the government with more funds.
Rescue the Foster will provide coaching, resume writing, interview skills, professional attire for interviews, budgeting, applying for college, and obtaining housing.
We want these youth to live the most free, successful life possible.
It is their right and our responsibility to ensure that our future kids and grandchildren can live happy lives.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord.
Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future.
As to count 2, cruelty to children in the first degree, we, the jury, find Brady Lee Timms. We, the jury, find the defendant, Brady Lee Timms, as to the following counts. As to count 2, cruelty to children in the first degree, we, the jury, find Brady Lee Timms not guilty. As to count 3, cruelty to children in the first degree, we, the jury, find Brady Lee Timms not guilty. As to count 4, cruelty to children in the first degree, we, the jury, find Brady Lee Timms not guilty. And it's dated and signed today's date by Madam Foreperson. I'll move on to the second jury verdict form. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carrie Renee Timms, as to the following counts. As to count 2, cruelty to children in the first degree, we, the jury, find Carrie Renee Timms not guilty. As to count 3, cruelty to children in the first degree, we, the jury, find Carrie Renee Timms not guilty. As to count 4, cruelty to children in the first degree, we, the jury, find Carrie Renee Timms not guilty. It's signed and dated by the foreperson. Madam Foreperson, did I read both jury verdict forms correctly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Based upon the verdict of the jury, Mr. Timms and Ms. Timms, each of you has been found not guilty of the charges that were filed against you. This court would now adjudge each of you not guilty as to these offenses. Again, remember, that would conclude this case, that would conclude these charges, and would conclude this jury trial.
Good evening and welcome to Rescue the Fosters. I am Gino, your host, and as always, next to me, the co-founder and co-host of the show, Sylvia Beachy, and also the co-founder and co-host of Rescue the Fosters, KK Emmett. Ladies, how are you?
Wow.
Wonderful.
Emotional.
Very emotional.
Like that just started out like, whoa.
You know what? It's emotional, but it brings a lot of joy.
Yes.
A lot of times they're not happy endings. So I'm just thankful that this was the case for our guest tonight. So Sylvia, without further ado, can you please introduce tonight's guest?
Yeah, I'm so excited to have Carrie on. I've been following her story from the beginning, well, since I found her. And Carrie Timms was a young mother raising a medically fragile child when her life changed overnight. Falsely accused of harming the son she was desperately trying to protect, she spent 1,174 days fighting for her freedom, her reputation, and the chance to bring her little boy home. After years of court battles, mounting debt, and unimaginable loss, Carrie was fully exonerated by a jury and reunited with her son. Today, she shares her story through her book, Tough as a Mother, offering hope to families facing wrongful accusations and proving that even in darkest moments, perseverance and faith can prevail. Thank you for joining us, Carrie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carrie. We did follow your story very closely. I know the girls even attended some of your court hearings. and helped advocate with You Are the Power. We definitely want to give a shout to them. You Are the Power. Love those guys. Love what they're doing. Yeah, there's so many great groups in Georgia. What's up with the rest of the United States, girls?
Get with it.
Man, like honestly, like Georgia's just kicking it. I don't know what's going on. So, Carrie, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story tonight. I think it's really important that there is hope. There is always hope. Obviously, we're all Christians on the screen, so there's hope in Jesus Christ. That's first and foremost. But there's hope that there might still be a shred of justice in this nation. Gosh, so many people get railroaded and framed, and the outcome isn't as joyful as this one. But in your case, excuse me, it was, and we are just thankful that it was. So, Carrie, if you want to start with your story anywhere, beginning, middle, end, it's up to you. The floor is yours.
Sure. I can start with I was a high risk pregnancy with my son Jameson. I have a lot of heart conditions that I didn't know where they contribute, like what contributed to one thing after another. But little did I know it was all tied together. But it took going through all of this to learn that. So in between regular OB appointments, high risk OB appointments, just getting to see his little face, it just made me more and more excited to be a mom. It's all I've ever wanted to do is be a mom. And we were blessed with him 3 weeks early. So he was born a little bit premature. Some people say that's preemie, some do not. To me, I had several weeks still left in me to plan, and I didn't get those weeks. So we welcomed him into the world 3 weeks early and started noticing just some odd things that were happening to him, skin discolorations and just odd things, especially around the 6 week mark with him. He ended up having like purple markings down his like long bones and joints, major joints and long bones. So me being a helicopter first time mom, I rush him in to my pediatrician at the time, and she tells me to rush him up to Tennessee to a children's hospital. They run all the labs, they do all the things, and I get no answers. Instead, I am accused then of abusing him. Um, so we get home, and DFACS comes to our home, evaluates our home. They walk through. We have food, we have running water, we have all the things, and they tell us then that we don't fit the mold. That's what they said, that our family just doesn't fit the mold. Take some parenting classes and get them off our back. So not only did I not have answers for what was going on with Jameson, I had DFACS now, asking questions, coming into our home and, just disrupting everything. And I'm still just trying to figure out what's wrong with Jameson. Fast forward to when he was 12 weeks, we have a wood burning stove in the house, and he was born in October, so he had the little cold months whenever he was itty bitty. So we had the fireplace going. I worked from home at the time, so he was in the house quite a bit with me. And he had started self-soothing. I don't know if you know about babies, but they love to rub their face whenever they're self-soothing. That's why they put the mittens on them. He had rubbed like a little spot right here on his cheek, and I noticed the coconut oil just wasn't doing the thing. I'm one of those try everything at home, holistic, do what you need to do before. But it started looking a little infected, so I'm like, I'm just gonna take him in, get a cream for it, bring him back home, and we'll treat it. And that's one day that my world turned upside down. I was in the waiting room. I was in the room waiting for the doctor, and I was playing with him, just leaning him up, God and gooing with him. And I noticed a red dot under his tongue. And as soon as she came in, I pointed it out because if that had like impetigo or any infection, I was scared that he had, went from here to hands and mouth and it had spread. And she immediately like that. Just no, this baby has been force fed. I'm notifying CPS. So
right
here we
out of
are,
the right out of the gate,
right out
that
of the gate.
accusation came flying out of her mouth.
That right there, that was it. I was in there alone at that point, and she stepped out for a moment, and I immediately called my mother-in-law. I said, "You need to," and I don't remember calling her, but she's like, "Just get here quick," is what I said to her. Words weren't making sense. She just knew that she needed to get to the doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the doctor comes back in, and she's poking like the popsicle stick down his mouth, he's screaming, crying. No 3-month-old is going to want a popsicle
Yeah.
stick in his mouth. She's taking pictures with her personal cell phone and sending them to a doctor up in Tennessee. And this is a doctor that's not treating my son. So why are you sending these pictures to a doctor that's out of state and not treating my son?
Without
At
your
that
permission.
point, without my permission. Yeah. Again, no answers, just accusations. And it turned into just, are you safe at home? Is your husband, is he physical with you? And I'm from the South, clearly. I know how to use a 9 mil. My son, my son, we're all healthy,
Mm-hmm.
safe at home. Otherwise, he would be not in the picture. We get home from the doctor's appointment. She lets me leave with Jameson, with my mother-in-law in tow. And we get in the driveway. And as soon as I pull in the driveway, I notice that the same SUV is in the driveway that came to the house before. So CPS, DFACS, whatever you want to call them here, beat us to the house. And they were already looking over the house. They looked at Jameson and had no concerns. No concerns whatsoever with Jameson. So the next day, we're supposed to get a snowstorm. We're out getting all the bread and milk that we can for Georgia snowstorm, and we get a phone call. A number keeps calling me, and I keep forwarding it because I didn't know the number. I don't know about you guys, but I just don't answer
Mm-hmm.
numbers that I don't know. Well, finally, I answer it because obviously it's very important. You're calling me back to back to back. And it was the caseworker that had come to the house. And she said that if I do not take my son to a certain hospital, they were going to come and take him for me. He needed to be evaluated because someone higher up has gone over their heads, and they have requested that my son be evaluated as soon as possible.
So, okay, DFACS, the Division of Family and Children in Georgia, they come out twice, actually. Second time, they still say, yeah, everything looks good, whatever. But within, what, an hour or two from this
The next
visit?
day,
Next day, oh, sorry, next day, yeah, because you said snowstorm. Next day, they decide someone's going to go above DFACS and say, no, we're overruling you. We're coming and taking the baby. So, in your mind, when this is happening, I mean, I mean, I can't even imagine being in that predicament, but being torn from one side to the other, like, okay, whoosh, man, the state's on my side. I think everything's okay. And then all of a sudden you get another call from a higher up, supposedly, that no, we're deciding that the baby's not in good conditions there and we need to remove him. Like, I mean, what was going through your mind?
they didn't remove him at that point. They just kind of told us that we didn't have an option. He needed to be seen immediately. So in my head, I'm thinking, number one, I have nothing to hide. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
this is a great hospital. I have nothing to hide. So he's going to a great hospital, and they're going to tell me what's wrong with him. I'm going to finally have answers. So Brady and I get both of our families, and we immediately convoyed and made it to the hospital within. We were getting it. We'll put it that way. But we were met with not the security guard, a police officer from our town, fully in uniform, gun, badge, and everything, waiting on us like we were already criminals.
Okay, gosh, so many questions. Okay, so the policeman standing there, uh, did he bring anybody with him, another doctor, anybody to come and take the baby, or was he just kind of there to make sure you guys didn't flee the scene?
He was. I don't understand his role to this day. If
Mm-hmm.
you watch, if you watch our trial, that was the most mind blowing piece to the puzzle, if you will. He never looked Jameson over. He never questioned us. He never questioned family. He was there just to say he was there, in my opinion. So he was there long enough to make sure we checked in, make sure that we made it there, checked in, and then we went to the trauma workup room. And that at that point, I looked back and he was gone. He had just left. He didn't even tell us he was leaving. He didn't even stay for the full trauma workup.
Hmm.
And during that trauma workup, we're in a room that's probably, I don't know, I don't even know how big it was, but it wasn't very big, but like 12 to 15 people were poking and prodding on Jameson. And I'm sitting there, I'm asking all the questions because I'm a redhead and I have a mouth. So I was, doctor, what do you see? Please tell me A, B, C, and D. I'm asking this, I'm asking that. Is there a spot under his mouth? And let me go back because the reason why she called CPS with force feeding is she said that his frenulum was severed.
Wow.
Okay, wouldn't
So
wouldn't that be painful? I mean, wouldn't the baby be crying like nonstop if that happened?
so whenever my mother-in-law got there, the first thing she did, her instinct was to, you know what, let's feed him. Let it, because a baby that has a torn frenulum, he's not going to take a bottle with ease.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So she feeds him, and she's trying to tell the doctor, look, if this baby has a torn frenulum, he wouldn't be taking the bottle as easily
Hmm.
as he is. Made no difference. So whenever I get to this doctor, I'm asking him. He said, no, his frenulum appears to be intact. He does have a red dot, exactly where I told this doctor he had a red dot. To this day, I don't know where the red dot came from. These doctors that were opposed to us were sworn under oath and testified that babies do not put their fingers in their mouth. So obviously he couldn't have done it himself because babies don't put their fingers in their mouth. So
Okay,
um
I've time out. I don't even know. Okay, I've raised 4 children myself with my wife. Also have a grandchild, and I can tell you, babies absolutely put their fingers in their mouth, and they do it quite often. And these
mhm.
people were trying to say that that does not happen.
Yes, they testified under oath that babies do not they don't rub their faces and they do not stick their fingers in their mouth.
My gosh, unbelievable.
Do
And
they
they
have
said,
children?
yeah. And did they say it with a straight face?
They did. They were adamant, quite quite adamant. I don't know what textbook they got it out of, but
Uh huh. So the doctor that did the initial evaluation, was that a pediatrician?
yes, it was the
Okay.
our trusted pediatrician at the time.
Oh, it was your personal pediatrician, not just
Hmm.
someone from the. Wow. Okay.
Yep, that was who sent us, who called CPS and
Wow.
DFACS. But we were admitted to once we got to the hospital, did the initial trauma workup. They told us that we were going to be admitted, so we didn't know we were going to be admitted. We prepared for it, but we thought, this is just a big misunderstanding. We'll get to go home, enjoy the snow the next day. Da da da. Da. No, we're admitted, and they're checking things off the list. And the last thing that they checked off the list the next day was supposed to be X-rays. So they told us he'll only be gone for um, 20 minutes, I think is what they said. And I remember them telling me he'll get to go home after he gets back from x-rays. You'll be able to go home. We're releasing you after that. We found nothing. Everything's come back. Ophthalmology, we canceled ophthalmology because we didn't see anything that needed to be looked into further with his eyes, or we don't believe any of this has happened. Da, 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 da. So while he's gone for x-rays, which they would not let me go back for, they would not permit me to go back for x-rays. Wasn't happy about that at all. He came back with a bruise on his back from x-rays, and then it was put in the report that he had a bruise on his back and we were blamed for it.
Whoa.
But I was packing his stuff, getting ready to go, thinking that we were going to go home, and like our whole world just turned upside down because they said that there were 3 fractures in the x-ray findings and a compressed T10 vertebrae. And I just looked at my husband and we were just, you can tell we're looking at each other like I haven't done anything. He hasn't fallen. He hasn't rolled off the couch. We haven't tripped with him. Nothing has happened to this child. If there was, we would bring it to your attention. I mean, I brought you in because he had a mark on his face.
Mhm.
So
Sorry to interrupt again, Carrie. So when they said that he had a bruise on his back, did you witness that bruise? Did you get
I
to
witnessed,
physically
I'm the
see?
one that pointed it out
You
after they
pointed it out.
came
Okay,
back from
sorry.
x-rays.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, but you said he did not have that bruise before the x-rays, correct?
Correct. Correct.
That makes, gosh, so much speculation going on in my head right now. I'm sure you,
Yeah. Imagine speculating for
yeah.
3 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So, um, they quickly came in. Um, I'm just going to say a white coat came in and told us, he's fractured up. There's only one way that you could have done this, or someone could have done this, and you would have had to have taken him, squeezed him, and slammed him down as
Oh,
hard as you possibly could on more than one occasion to cause what damages that were done to his little body. And I just remember losing it. I don't know if you remember know movies that where you just hear like the buzzing noise and it's just like everything just started spinning. I couldn't think straight. And I just kept saying no, like no way. There's no way. I said, show me these x-rays. And she said, I can't really read x-rays. I said, then you get someone in here who can. And they told me, hand on the Bible, the the radiologist has better patients, more important patients to see at this moment. And I'm like, nothing is more important to me than this right here, right now. So she rolls in the cart, the white coat does that can't read x-rays. She rolls it in. She's like, I think they're talking about this right here, but I'm not sure. And I was like, I need to know I need to see it for myself and have someone explain this to me that knows what they're talking about because I need to know what's going on. I need to, like, I have all the questions and I need all the answers. And she said, unfortunately, we've already contacted the department and they're in the middle of getting the court order and you're not going to be leaving here with your baby. So that's when armed security came in and sorry. Brady had to tell him goodbye. I had to tell him goodbye, and I just remember what he felt like, how much he weighed. I can feel him on my chest, and just holding him, as tight as I can. But I didn't want to hold him too tight because they just told me he was broken. So I'm sitting here trying to hold on to him, and not trying to break him any more than what they're saying he's broken. And then the woman stretching out her hands, and she's like, "Okay, it's time now." And I had no choice but to give her over because the court order had been just as quickly as that signed. And she just walks out of the room like she just went on a grocery run, pretty much. And then armed security was rushing us out of the room. I mean, I'm distraught. I'm in the floor. I'm literally laying down on the floor screaming. And Brady had to pick me up. My husband had to pick me up. And I don't know how, but my dad was outside and my dad is a tow truck driver. So he comes up on some pretty gruesome scenes. He sees moms who are losing their children in a fire or a car accident. And so he hears some pretty awful things. And he said that the wailing that I was doing when I came out of that hospital with the armed guard was unlike anything he's ever heard of. Like I felt like they had they took my heart right out of my chest.
awful. Wow. That is absolutely atrocious. I can't believe people can do this to other people, human beings. So when they brought the warrant in, did they present the warrant to you? Did you get to see it was an actual warrant? It wasn't something just drawn up there at the hospital or something?
I don't remember what it said because, like I said, everything started spinning. Everything was a blur. They put it down. I remember Brady looking at it and then setting it on like the little cart thing that you can roll back and forth in the hospital room. And then, but I mean, I remember seeing the seal, whatever the little stamp is.
And did they
And
send anybody to try to console you? I mean, any like professional help? Nothing. Just left you for your
no,
own. And
an armed guard who made like hurry. Basically, he told us, "Hurry up! It's time. It's time to leave. Let's go." So that was the longest hallway I've
So,
ever walked down.
so essentially, you're just accused right there of being guilty without any evidence. I mean, supposed evidence that they've got this, these fractures on an X-ray that you didn't even get to see, and the other person didn't even know how to read.
Right.
So you're assumed guilty in America, by the way, folks. Does that sound like anti-constitutional? Yeah, sure does. It doesn't sounds crazy, but this happens all the time, and you'd be shocked that it happens in hospitals in your neighborhood.
Every day.
This every single day in America, it's going on. Cases just like this. I don't know how many people, Carrie, we've had on this show that have had medical cases, medical kidnapping, other medical issues. And same thing, just come in and the parents are accused of horrific crimes. Literally, like the one, my gosh, I can think of one other one where they said the baby was thrown across a room. That's the only way this could happen. and they don't get to say anything. They don't get to defend themselves until their day in court, which could be, 3 years later.
3 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what happened. We went through juvenile court. He was placed with my sister-in-law, and her husband is married to a state trooper. So to us, that was the fastest in, and to get him with kinship placement. So we're very thankful and blessed for that. I knew something else was wrong. They took him before blood tests came back, before genetic testing came back. So here I am staying up all night. I don't know how many hours of sleep that I didn't get because I was down the rabbit hole. Any rabbit hole I could find, there I was trying to make things make sense. And I found Dr. Hollick in Boston. Of course, he's the EDS king and the vitamin D king. So we had to fight to get permission from the court to even get him seen there. And I was told no multiple times. And finally I told my attorney at the time, I was like, if you don't get a yes, things are going to get really, really bad. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. So she called me back in like 5 minutes and she's like, okay, so you're good to go. And I'm like, good, we're going Tuesday. I've already booked a flight. So DFACS actually went with us, not on the same plane, but they met us there.
Mm-hmm.
They heard everything we heard about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobility. They saw Jameson be examined, and they still ignored the diagnosis. And when my sister-in-law mentioned to the caseworker, hey, you guys were in the room. You heard exactly what we heard. This baby has a diagnosis. He needs to be returned home. What does that process look like? And within 24, 48 hours, there was a petition of removal because they told her that that was not her place. So they were trying to take Jameson out of her home because she made that statement. So luckily, that didn't happen. There was a stop put to that because we were irate, obviously. I remember getting the best of the best. Like when I think of the best, I think Harvard, Ivy League schools. I wanted professors, doctors that knew what they were talking about, well renowned. And I literally saw across the world for these people, had people waiting on Zoom to testify one morning for juvenile court. And the judge said, no, we don't want to hear it. We want to just go ahead. We know that they're seeking to terminate your rights. I don't want this in my courtroom anymore. Let's sign the kid over to a family member and the DFACS case will be closed. And in my head, I'm thinking, absolutely not. These people are waiting on Zoom. This is my day in court. And like, this is supposed to be the slam dunk. This is supposed to be the answer. And we didn't even get to speak in juvenile court as far as our experts go. Looking back, that was a blessing in disguise because, in my opinion, I don't know for sure, but that judge kind of did us a solid in a way because that got DFACS out of the picture and it let us focus on the criminal aspect because we were arrested. Me and Brady were both arrested for all of this. So it gave us the time to know that our son was with family, and we just needed to basically hurry up and wait and just treat him with the most, safest environment that we possibly could give him with adult supervision. We couldn't be around anyone under 18 without adult supervision. We were pretty much treated like sex offenders.
Were you able to do any Zoom meetings? Like, were you able to see him in any video or any phone calls?
Yeah, we got to see him. During the 3 years, we were able to see him and maintain a relationship with him. However, every diaper change, I had someone looking over my shoulder. Couldn't rock him to sleep. Had no idea what his hair looked like in the morning when he woke up. I wasn't the one that got to console him when he woke up in the middle of the night with, teething or, um, I didn't get any of that. I don't know what his first word was. I don't remember his first steps. Missed it. I mean, we were there for a lot, but we also missed a lot.
Boy, Carrie, I always think when I hear these stories, I'm like, I don't know how I would react. I think people say, well, I would do this and I would do that, but until you're in the situation, I don't think you really know what you would do. But I often think like what I would be thinking about when I'm alone. And I just like, it would just, oh man, it would just tear me up. Like, I mean, I can't even imagine that level of pain. Now, in your case, thank God it was with kinship. A lot of these kids are thrown into foster care, and it's just, oh gosh, it's not good. So, I mean, thank God that you had that, and the good Lord was watching out for him. But, I mean, how did you cope with the day-to-day just grind? I mean, you're like, for instance, I think people forget, like, bills still come in, right?
Work
like
still
life,
has to be done. Yeah.
life just keeps happening. It doesn't stop. So how does that like feel day to day?
I don't think I did it to myself. My body just kicked into a new gear of let's numb it and keep busy. So I was working. I didn't miss a day of work. I mean, I was pumping, I showed up every day. A lot of people at my workplace didn't even know what was going on. I worked for a doctor's office. Patients would come in and they had no idea. I was happy. I was greeting people. Deep down inside, I was dying. Quite literally, I was dead inside. I would come home at night. My husband would go out to the shop because that's how he copes with things. For all I know, he was throwing tools and, saying whatever he wanted to say.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, I'm in the shower screaming, why God? I was very angry.
Sure.
I will be the first to admit I was very angry with God,
Hmm.
and I just thank God that he had grace for me through that time because I mean, I was angry. I'm surprised the neighbors didn't call the cops as loud as I would scream at night. Um, but after everything came out, because we eventually did go public with our situation and what we were going through, I would have patients come into the office and they were like, we had no idea. You are, like you have a great poker face, basically.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? It's God. There's no other reason. There's no other answer. There's no other remedy. It's God that is carrying me through this because I'm not doing it myself.
You're not the first guest that's actually worked in the medical field and had it happen to them.
Hmm.
We've had several guests on that word, and I always thought that was kind of shy. In fact, one I'm thinking of, she was a nurse. She worked in the the prenatal, what I forgot what they call that section of the hospital, prenatal, I think it's just called.
NICU?
And I don't think it was NICU. I think she was in the day-to-day operations with the babies, and it was just like amazing. Like, she had to go through that, seeing other babies in that nursery and knowing that her baby was not in her home and under her
Yeah.
care.
I work
And
for a chiropractor, so
oh,
we're dealing with bones every day.
wow,
And
oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
people are
And
coming in and they're like, I think I fractured this. I'm like, the word fracture, and then my I would hold a lot of tension and everything, and my boss like, let me adjust you. She knew everything. She was so gracious. I mean, gosh, that woman bent over backwards for me for 3 years. She really did. Um, but she would adjust me, and she said, "You do not adjust like normal people. You adjust like glass." And to me, that always stood out because in my research, I mean, that's what I was going down that road of Ehlers-Danlos. There's something going on with connective tissue here. There's all the things. So
Hmm.
that just kind of stood out to me over all of that. But it was a wild 3 years. It took You Are the Power stepping in and really putting it out there, and it made a huge difference for us.
Yeah, Spike Cohen. If you guys don't know who You Are the Powers, we've had them several of their
Yeah.
associates on, and you can go back and watch those episodes. They're doing great work in Georgia. Shout out to You Are the Power. You guys are awesome. Gosh, Carrie. So 3 years, that had to seem like an eternity. I can't even imagine like the day-to-day grind, just thinking, is it going to be today, God? And you know, the angry at God thing, I totally understand that. I've had several talks with the Lord, and I'm just like, Lord, I don't understand this. You could end this today. You could end these families' miseries. You could, but, this is the hardest part for Christians. I know, like the problem of evil. Like, why do you allow it to continue, right? And it's like, but somehow, some way, he works the evil out for good. He didn't cause the evil, but he works it out for good in the end. And those of us that believe, we don't like it, but we understand it as we grow and mature in our faith. And I think outsiders, people that aren't in the faith, they look at it like, you guys are crazy. But until you understand that level of faith and understand like what the Lord does inside of you and the strength that he gives you, he literally has to give it to you because we can't do it on our own. That pushes us and keeps us compelled to keep going for the goal, whatever that goal may be. I mean, it's obvious you were experiencing that.
Very much so. And I held on to, I heard it at some point during the 3 years that, I don't know about you guys, I believe in anointing oil. I'll go through,
Mm-hmm.
anoint my household. But that oil didn't come easily. The olives had to be crushed. You had to sit there and actually be refined and crushed. And so that's another thing that kind of stuck out to me. You have to be crushed in order for the anointing to be able to flow out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave me hope. That gave me, the beauty for ashes. You hear all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that did give me hope. And without that, I wouldn't be sitting here today. That's the God's honest truth.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody could get through a situation like that without him. I mean, I think he understands. We're going to ask questions. We just don't see the end from the beginning like he does. But it's just difficult. There's difficult things in life. Ladies, any comments, opinions?
I was just gonna say what Carrie was saying is the truth. Like you can only make it throughout the system with your faith. That's what helped me get through. Being in the foster care for so long was my faith, and exercising and just staying out of trouble. So she's absolutely right about that. Like you only have your faith when everything else is around you is chaotic. Like you go to God. And
Hmm.
that's what I had to do when I was around all that craziness and drama and fights and girls trying to kill themselves and cut themselves and just all of the craziness. You know, um, your faith really helps you get through it.
And who you surround yourself with, that really it situate that's the situation that we had to go through, really weeded out friends and family, and where they drew the people in who were supposed to be our circle, our firm foundation that we were able to lean on whenever we couldn't stand up on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, you're right about that. It's good to have a good support system. Like I'm just grateful to have Sylvia because she was the one and her sister and a few other women. They really, looked out for me. They really cared about me. So I was just grateful that God put some really strong women that genuinely cared about the children in the system because a lot of them don't.
Yep, that's true.
Carrie,
It's
was
true.
your
And
church family? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, was your church family aware of the situation?
Oh, yes. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking every Sunday we were prayed for. Um, I joke about it in my book, but I wore out, our family wore out some of the carpet at the altar. Like we were there every Sunday. Like
Mhm.
we wore that altar out. And I remember my pastor being there just about every day for court, and he prayed, and I'll never forget as long as I live. Our thing, our little slogan, if you will, was keep knocking, knock, and the door will be open. And he had been preaching up to the weeks up to our trial about a Red Sea experience. And he come to us during deliberation time. And, deliberations, you don't know whether to leave, sit there. What do you do? How long is it going to take? I chose to sit there and pray and listen to the same song on repeat that Jameson was born to. And it's when I walk through deep waters, I just kept it on repeat. Our pastor came up and prayed for us, and he said, "Get ready for your Red Sea experience. Get ready for it. I'm believing for it in the name of Jesus. I'm telling you right now, where I'm speaking it, I'm proclaiming it right now in the name of Jesus." I mean, we were talking in tongues in that courtroom. I'm surprised we didn't get kicked out. And I got cold chills because he said amen, and he walked back to his pew. And I'll never forget, I heard 3 knocks, knock, knock, knock. And that was the jury. And they had made their decision. Like right there, he said, there's your Red Sea experience. It's on the way. It's on the way. He sits down and knock, knock, knock.
Wow.
And right there is what led up to the video that you played right at the beginning. And I was like, that is a Red Sea experience if I've ever heard one, because you never know what a jury's going to say. I knew the truth. We could all see the truth. Everyone sitting there could see the truth. But what were they thinking? You don't know what 12 people are thinking
Right.
when it comes down to it.
No, it's
Well,
sometimes it's a scary experience when you're really relying on 12 people, because you're right, you don't know what they're thinking. You don't, some people don't even care about this stuff, or care enough to research about this stuff, or because some people who are picked to jury, they're just like, oh, whatever, I just gotta do the jury trial and just get it over with. But it's like, no, like it's so much more than that.
I knew it was going to at least be a hung jury. We had one juror during closing arguments. He was young. I thought he wasn't going to pay attention. Like you could tell he was fresh out of school, like high school, fresh out of school,
Wow.
like itty bitty baby. And he would just sit there, and then like a couple of days go through, and I look, and he's really taking notes. And I'm like, okay, closing arguments come. And of course, the state goes first, the state goes last. The state goes last. He turns his chair all the way around to show disrespect to the state. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. He's my new favorite juror. And I'm so grateful for that, because it was that was one moment where I was like, and then they came through and they were reading the verdict form. They brought all counsel up. And I remember the judge saying to the prosecutor, "Do you have any problems with the format of the form?" And I remember like it was yesterday. The prosecutor said, "Not the format." And I was like, there's hope. Like there's more hope. And we chose not to testify. Everybody said, "Why didn't you testify? That was your chance to tell your story that you've been waiting to tell for 3 years." And I heard God tell me plain as day, "Be still. The work's already been done. Be still. Be quiet. Be still. It's already done." And the judge asked us if we were going to testify, and we were feeling pretty confident at that point. And I told the judge I was not going to testify. Brady told the judge he was not going to testify. And the prosecutor slammed her book down, and she just kind of slumped down in her seat and looked down like she had lost, like she knew she had lost. And that right there, I was like, what if I didn't obey God? What if I didn't obey the just be still, just be quiet? There's no telling. I mean, ultimately, God knew the outcome. but what could she have twisted or turned that came out of my mouth in complete innocence to make it sound horrible? And oh, that obedience was golden in my opinion, and it's what led me to finally have my say, which is all written out in Tough as a Mother that I wrote. That was my chance to finally speak my truth. Not my truth, but the truth. Oh, you got yours? I got mine
Awesome.
too.
You know, it
Yes.
is a blessing that there was a criminal charges against you and your husband. I mean, because they had to give the baby back once the verdict was read. Where if this had gone through the juvenile system, family court, that baby would be in foster care and adopted out somewhere. So, I mean, if they just, you know, if they didn't accuse you of crimes, if they would just say, oh, it was neglect or other things like that, like, you know, we've seen this in other cases where the kids are taken for just ridiculous reasons. And they just get put in the system. But yours went to kinship, which was the blessing. And then also the criminal charges brought it to a higher court where then it could actually, evidence could be provided and witnesses could testify on your behalf. So, yeah, that's amazing how God kind of worked that thing out. It seems backwards to us. It seems like, well, that's crazy. Like, I wouldn't want to be convicted of a crime I didn't commit. But in this case, it, when you see it from hindsight, or I mean from the 40,000 foot view, you're like, okay, yeah, that all worked out. I could see how that worked out. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
true. That's that's the beauty of it, though. That's the beauty of faith. That's the point of faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. Whew. Wow, that's really awesome. So tell us about the book.
Tough as a Mother kind of goes through um just everything. I think I mentioned in the beginning how all I've ever wanted to do was be a mother, and um, even as a child, I didn't have the best childhood. I should have been one that was in the system. Me and my siblings, we were abused in just about any way you could think of. You name it, it's there. Um, but I was able to put that in words and in hopes of encouraging, not just mothers who are going through what I'm going through, but women who have felt like, I've been beaten down my whole life. I'm nothing. I am what I came from. There's no way I can overcome this. Whether it be addiction, if your parents were addicted, and I'm gonna be an addict. No, 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 no. You can rise above that. You have the power inside of you through the Holy Spirit to break those generational curses.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I wanted to embody in Tough as a Mother. And our story of 3 years of a nightmare just so happens to be a good chunk of that. But it just shows you how God can make beauty from ashes. And if you look at the book Tough as a Mother, it's me walking through, and you can see I'm covered in ashes. I'm covered. There's fire in the background, but I'm walking out of it. And that really, it just, that's the perfect, it was like the perfect cover that I couldn't have made it any better. I just kind of leaned on what God wanted me to do. One side of my face looks almost unscathed, while the other looks like it went through battle. And by golly, I did. But I'm I'm just thankful that Tough as a Mother was able to. It kind of taught me how to sit down and reflect through the last 3 years too, because you you're traumatized, whether you think so or not, after you go through something like this. But this was therapeutic for me because I knew that I was working this out of myself, but I was pouring it out for someone else also at the same time.
Right.
That's a blessing.
Carrie, can I just tell you, I love how you were vulnerable in your book. You told it all. You didn't hold back. And people think that they know you from just watching your case on Facebook, but until you read the book, you don't really know, right?
Right.
And that's another part of it, is that we as humans are so judgmental and think that we know what a person has gone through, what they're going through, when we have no idea. Like, everybody has a story and everybody's story is different. But I love that. I read your book thinking, oh, I know this story. And then I was like, I don't know this story. And because you tell it all and you didn't hold back. You didn't like make excuses or anything like that. So yeah, go out and buy the book. It's really good. And it reminded me of myself with my walk with God, like how we're kind of like the prodigal daughter,
Yeah.
like going through this journey with God on trusting Him. And uh, it's crazy how sometimes we have to go through things in order to get back to God and having that relationship with God. So I liked that as well because it kind of like strengthens your faith.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's what I wanted. And I wanted to write the book with grace. I mean, so many people had hurt me or wronged me, but I didn't want it to be like you. I wanted it to be a lot of self-reflection and extend as much grace as I possibly could, but to get the point across. And and the boundaries that I've set now in my life, it's you just got to read the book because it's the boundaries make so much more sense once you read the book.
Hmm. One commandment stands out to me right now: thou shalt not bear false witness. And as a believer, boy, it's really hard when people are accusing you of something you didn't do. And I mean, in your case, like severe abusive crimes. How has that played out in your personal life for like just working through forgiveness and saying, you know what, Lord, I'm it's hard to forget. Of course, I'm never going to forget what's happened, but I choose to forgive these people and what they've done to me. How's that worked out for you? I mean, so far.
It's taken time. It's
Mm-hmm.
not instantaneous. I don't want anyone to think that I'm just, right after the verdict, I was like, oh, sorry, you guys are,
Right.
no harm, no foul. No, no. I still have nightmares of, you know, the feeling of the weight taken off, and I wake up screaming for my child, and then I go crawl in bed with him. Thank God I'm able to crawl in bed with him.
Hmm.
3 years ago, I wasn't able to do that. I would have the nightmares and go and lay in his floor and just tell God, these people did this to me. Why are you letting them just walk the earth freely like this? And and it really, I mean, they're put on the earth for a reason. They are. And I think some of them just abuse the power that they have been given. Some of their jobs are necessary. Don't get me wrong. The hospital that we went to, they do great things every day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I have to look at. Maybe their intentions weren't to cause what they caused in our family for 3 years, the disruption, the discord, the lost moments, the lost time that I can never get back. But I have to forgive because God has forgiven me for, cussing him, you know, when I shouldn't have been
Yeah.
so angry. And, the nights that I went out drinking that I don't remember as, a rebellious, the wayward way, I didn't deserve that forgiveness. But, I made a hat the other day and it says, love them anyway. And that's what
Hmm.
I'm trying my best to live by, is to just love them anyway. It's not easy, by any means. And it's not just the doctors and the hospitals and law enforcement. It's people that I deal with in our everyday life who, for some reason, still think that we did this, that are very, very close, and we come in contact with them on a weekly basis. And it's very painful, but you have to still just extend as much grace as possible.
Well, I foresee a second book in your future. Love them anyway. That's a great book. Oh man,
It's
that
a
would be
good
a
one.
really good one.
I'm gonna write that down
Yeah,
real quick.
yeah. I think that
Um,
could be second in the
Carrie,
series.
I love that you're saying that because I've even had to do that myself, like to forgive my abusers or my family or even just, the ways that certain staff or people have, treated, myself, me in foster care. So, and it does, like it just shows the reflection of even like what the children have to go through. Like they have to forgive, the abuser or the staff worker or the caseworker or whoever. And it's a long process within itself. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And but by no means does that make like the trauma go away. That's
Right.
one thing that's very important to realize. You can forgive, and the saying is forgive and forget. Your body keeps the score. I don't know if any of you have read that book, but your body keeps the score. Even if you forgive, your body still is in a, I'm not gonna lie, I am suffering from PTSD, complex PTSD from what I've gone through, not just in this, but throughout my entire life. And I have forgiven people, but you still have that you deal with on a daily basis, and you have to lay it down every single day, every single day.
Have
Well,
you noticed
the
anything with? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kiki.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the foster care system really does change you. Like, it really does. Like, the trauma and just everything, like the nightmares, the torment, just some of that still will like come up sometimes. So no, like that's the effect of the being in the system, or just even parents having to battle through this. They are changed forever. They're not who like they can't go back to how they used to be. They're
Yeah,
different.
that's true.
So.
Have you noticed anything with Jameson's behavior? Like, is there
That
anything that's
kid,
noticeable? I mean, I know he's young, but it's.
negatively, no, but you can ask anyone, KK or Sylvia, that's been around him at a function. He is at like attached at my hip. Like he will literally
Mm-hmm.
go like cling to my legs. He's the smartest kid. He is so smart and so kind. He is, if we see an ambulance in town, he's like, oh, we're praying for them tonight. Wherever that ambulance is going, we're praying for them tonight. And I mean, he is just so, so, so kind. And I'm open with him. I have been open because he is intelligent. He
Mm-hmm.
is more self-aware than most. He's almost 5. Um, and every night he prays. He prays for the babies to be returned home. All the babies. All the babies. He wants people to be held accountable. And he even says he wants to be a good cop. I want to be a cop when I grow up, but I want to be a good one. And if that doesn't tell
Wow.
you from the mouths of babes right there,
Mm-hmm.
um, that that is, I can't be more proud as a mom. I can't. It means I'm doing something right, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. Before we let you go, Carrie, did you want to go through some of that paperwork that was emailed over to me?
Yeah, we can do that. Since we haven't said any names or anything of that nature. I went semi-viral on TikTok last fall,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking very much viral, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking about how this hospital had wronged our family. I went into specifics and details. I spoke the truth, and they just didn't like that very much. So, yeah.
Well, here it is. This was dated January 20th, 2026. Did you want to read it, or you want me to read it?
If you don't mind, I my eyes are terrible. If you can read it
Well,
better.
mine are worse, but I can see it, so I'll go ahead and I'll read it. It says, "Dear Miss Timms, I represent." Can you guys hear me? Is my microphone too for here? Okay.
You're
I
good.
represent Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Inc. Children's. I am writing to address the false statements you have made about Children's and its child abuse pediatricians, CAPS, in your TikTok videos. These false statements constitute defamation and libel under Georgia law and jeopardize the critical work of child abuse and identification protection, a mission that saves countless lives. It is clear your baseless allegations were asserted with the intent to harm Children's and its CAPS, and Georgia law does not tolerate this behavior or these actions. First, false statements intended to injure the reputation or expose a person to public hatred, contempt, or ridicule constitute actionable libel. They cite some laws. Second, making charges against another in reference to his trade, office, or profession to injure is actionable slander under Georgia law. Finally, under Georgia law, it is a crime to disseminate any information subjecting a person to hatred, contempt, or ridicule, or to impair his credit or business repute. The statements you have made violate all of these statutes. Defamatory comments made by you that demonstrate a willful and reckless disregard for the truth include the following. You state Children's is using children and their families for profit and receives incentives from the state for putting abuse on a medical chart. This assertion is categorically false. No such incentive relationship exists between the state and Children's. CAPS receives no money from DFACS for Their clinical work and their compensation is entirely unrelated to the diagnosis they do or don't make. Of the hundreds of thousands of patients treated at Children's last year, less than 0.1% were confirmed to be abuse. Rather than diagnosing abuse, Children's CAPS spend a majority of their time ruling out suspected abuse. Your statements regarding alleged incentives are baseless and defamatory and are plainly actionable under Georgia law. You accuse Children's of misdiagnosing your child. The abuse diagnosis was based on objective, standardized, and evidence-based medicine and supported by facts. Sorry, I giggled there. I'm sorry. Whether a criminal conviction was obtained by the state has no bearing on the validity of the medical diagnosis, and your attempts to discredit the diagnosis do not alter the objective medical findings. Children's stands by its diagnosis. Its expertise is detecting abuse and its unwavering commitment to protecting vulnerable children. You accuse Children's of medical kidnapping, as you acknowledge your child was referred to Children's by other medical professionals who suspected abuse. DFACS and the district attorney also believed your child was abused. You admit your child had unexplained fractures. To suggest that Children's kidnapped your child by evaluating these fractures is not only ludicrous, wow, ludicrous, but also a gross mischaracterization of the organization's practice and mission. Your allegation that Children's failed to consider a look for a different diagnosis is patently false. Children's CAPS are highly specialized physicians with advanced training who use an objective process and includes coordinating with multiple specialists to rule out other causes before diagnosing abuse. At your trial, it was shown that Children's CAPS considered and ultimately ruled and several other potential medical conditions that may have caused your child's injuries. Their expertise is to distinguish between abuse and other conditions, and the accusation of incompetence is baseless. You have mischaracterized settlement negotiations by claiming that Children's efforts are to quiet you and imply an admission of a diagnosis and more. That is another falsehood. Cases without merit, such as yours, are often settled in lieu of the cost of litigation. You approached Children's with a settlement demand, and Children's responded. Your decision to decline Children's offer and then publicize private negotiations does not entitle you to defame Children's or its staff. Finally, your repeated desire to hold the bad guys accountable have incited other parties and resulted in threats towards Children's staff. Of all the implications of your defamatory conduct, this is perhaps the most concerning. You are putting lives at risk and defaming the reputation of physicians who have dedicated their careers to protecting children. Children's will not tolerate this activity or your lies and misinformation. For these reasons, we hereby demand that you immediately remove all libelous content from TikTok and any other platforms or websites, and cease making false and defamatory statements about Children's and its CAPS. Children's is prepared to take all necessary legal measures to protect the safety of its employees. Should your actions incite harm against Children's or its staff, you will be held accountable. Ongoing efforts by you to harm Children's mission by promoting misinformation to other public platforms, including broadcast and news entities, may also be actionable. This letter is not confidential, and you may share it as you wish, but we expect you to immediately comply with our cease and desist demands. And if you are represented by counsel, please have your attorney contact me. Sincerely, R. Page Powell, Jr. Okay. Well, there's that.
They hate being exposed. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's the pride, okay? The pride and the ego. And you know what? That's going to be their downfall, because that's what got the devil.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Pride and ego.
Haughty spirit and pride, that'll take you down. I mean, look, and just like we mentioned earlier, that of course the hospital does great work. They've saved probably countless lives every week. No one's denying that. See, when people put that straw man argument up, I always laugh. I'm just like, okay, yeah, we know that you save lives. We know you do a lot of good things there. I mean, I'm sure their trauma department is amazing when people come in from car accidents or gunshot wounds or, violence, whatever. But that's not what we're talking about. In this particular place has had other people that have had problems with it.
A lot of other
a whole bunch of them. And so at this 0.1%, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I can tell you just in our little broadcast here, I know people that have been in that same place and have had similar problems. And without evidence, how come a parent isn't allowed to see x-rays? How come they're not allowed to see blood work?
How come we're not allowed to be in the room
How come
while
you're
these
not allowed to be in
X-rays
the
are
room?
being?
Absolutely. Absolutely. With your child. So leave like, you know what's, this is the irony of it too. If you left your young child, let's say 2 years old, alone anywhere, people are going to say that's neglect. Where's the parent? What are they doing? Are they crazy? That kid could run out in the street, or that could, right? But in a hospital, for some reason, it's okay that your child's left alone with people it doesn't know, terrified, right? Especially if they're a little bit older. Like, this happens all the time. And yet they get away with that. That's okay. And CPS doesn't come in and say, hey, hospital, this is wrong. We need to protect the children. But where are they? They don't come in and save the children in these situations. So we're just supposed to expect and respect and acknowledge that doctors are the be all and end all. And they have this God complex, like they're right all the time. And we as parents don't get to question them. Give me a break.
And people, because the other thing is that they also make up stories of what happened. There's no evidence, there's no pictures, there's no nothing. They literally make up the story of how your child was harmed, like throwing the child, or like we've seen it over and over where they literally just make up the story and that's what they go with. And they don't need evidence, they don't need nothing. It's
They just try to stick whatever they can. I know one of the doctors testified under oath. This is another one that's going to blow your mind. That there is no squeezing mechanism during the birthing process.
What?
There
Okay.
is no squeezing mechanism during.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but I know a little bit about biology. And when that baby's coming through the birthing canal, they're squeezing. Okay, when they do a C-section, like there's a reason they do a C-section, because the baby can get stuck because there's, I mean, a female anatomy. We all know it. Okay, but like, give me a break. Like, that's ridiculous. How can they say this stuff with a straight face?
It's gold. That's the thing. They can say whatever, and it's gold. It's a gold standard. So, but at the end of the day, they have to sleep with themselves at night. And I get on the other side of this wall over here. I've got a beautiful almost 5-year-old baby boy. They got to come back home to my family, to me as a mother, because I fought tooth and nail and I leaned on God more than I ever have and I ever could have imagined needing God. And at the end of the day, that's what matters to me. I get to sleep with the beautiful baby boy that I carried and fought tooth and nail for, and they have to sleep with themselves at night.
Amen to that. Well, okay, guys, I will put the link to Carrie's book in the description box if you guys want to reach out on Amazon and grab one of the copies. Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for telling your story, your courage and enduring and perseverance and all the things that you and your family have had to go through. We pray for continued healing, mentally, physically, and spiritually for you guys, and the best for Jameson. But thanks for joining us. We're going to ask you to go ahead and end your meeting, and then I'm going to close up with the girls here.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Carrie.
Bye, guys.
So many notes in that one to take. Just like,
Yes.
Sylvia, I could have made this show 3 hours long. Honestly, I was thinking so many things, and I was just trying to pick and choose in my brain. I'm like, okay, I can't go there because that's going to take like 15 minutes. But it's like, and I know most of their story just from following it when it was, going on and stuff. But I forgot some of the details. But it's just, again, thank God that baby's home where he belongs. Thank God.
And they were exonerated. I mean, how many people are how many parents are sitting in prison because of these doctors that are wrongfully diagnosing and sending innocent parents to prison? I mean, I can't even imagine. But the other thing is that this was the one trial that I sat in. I don't know if KK was there with me, but when they were picking the jury, the DA said the jury question was, have you ever heard of or donated to rescue the Fosters?
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And I was like, all right. And I almost raised my said, and here, I'm here. But the fact that the DA was actually using Rescue the Fosters as one of the jury selections, and if they had heard of it, they were out. You
Wow.
know, and the crazy thing was is that
Badge of
Carrie,
honor.
yeah, she hadn't even been on our show.
Yeah.
And I had just been sharing, but the thing is that they hate people advocating for truth. And that's the thing. Like we are not a fan of corruption, and we're going to call it out. We are going to expose it. And they just hate being exposed, because once they're exposed, then the next person might be saved.
Well, see what happens when you have a jury of your peers and actual evidence is provided and both sides tell their story.
Right.
Thank God this went to a higher court. Thank God this went to the criminal court and the evidence could be presented, because what we've seen in the juvenile court, family court, is quite the opposite. It's a one-sided story. You're painted with a broad brush. You're told that you are horrible parents. You don't deserve to have children. We're taking your children away. But in this case, it's so weird to say like that is a blessing that they were actually told they were criminals, so that it could be brought to another court and then play out with actual evidence and a jury. And that brave man, whoever that brave kid was, 18 years old, 19, whatever he was, fresh out of high school, wow, to turn his back on the state, that's saying something. Anyway, all right, ladies, any final words, comments?
No, we're working on a lot of good stuff coming up. Just go out and get Carrie's book. It's really good. It's I mean it is really good, especially if you're struggling with your faith. So go out and get that, support her. And yeah, I don't know if KK has anything she wants to talk about or not.
Rescue the
Wrong button, sorry.
No, I wasn't really gonna say much, but I am starting to finally connect with more like foster youth. So I'm excited for the tomorrow. I have a meeting with a former foster youth. So just getting more connected, really. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, if you're a foster youth out there, I got to start posting on TikTok again. I'm terrible. I need like a PR person or something. But we need foster kids to tell their story. We want you guys to come on here and tell your stories. And I say foster, obviously some of you are adults now, but if you're in the foster care system and you want to tell your story, you're more than welcome to come on. We have a platform for you. We need to hear your voices. We want to make them loud and proud in this Pride Month. That was bad. Okay, anyway, get myself in trouble. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Rumble, Fox, and X. John, thank you for streaming over there, brother. We appreciate you. We love you guys. Can you please like, subscribe, and share? That helps us immensely in those algorithms. We need to bring awareness to the subject. So have a great night. God bless, and we'll see you next time on Rescue the Fosters.
Insecure and left alone to defend for ourselves. We are praying to the Lord for when this nightmare is going to end. How many more sleepless nights? How much more pain and tears do we have to endure? When can I see my family or someone who cares for me? Are we not good enough? Or are we just some test rats that have to follow orders? Are we just worth $1? Or are we actually being taken care of? Our hearts are burning in pain, and tears keep falling from our cheeks. Tired of crying and having our emotions in cycles. Our voices are being empowered by the ones who have more authority than us. However, today is the day it ends. No more feeling ashamed and leaving abandoned. We are standing up tall and raising our voices high. We are a child of God, and our work has just begun. God thinks we are worth enough and worth fighting for. God has our back and no need to fear. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Now one more child is going to be left alone and abandoned. Thank you, Jesus, for all you have done for us, and all glory goes to you. In Jesus' name, amen.